Rapids project. I work upstairs, I work downstairs, so I spend time on both sides of the dam. And I'm here to talk to you a little bit about some stuff going on upstream of the dam. Yeah. So just to place the scene here a little bit, here's an overview of Glen Canyon, and Glen Canyon Dam is over here. And Lake Powell stretching all the way up to the Dirty Devil River. Here's the bottom end of Cataract Canyon. Mill Crag Bend, Dirty Devil comes in there. Here's the San Juan arm here. And Clay Hills Takeout is right about here. And back in the day when the lake was full, the lake backed up all the way up past Clay Hills and all the way up to like the big drops, which would have been up over here off the screen. So the lake was quite a bit higher, obviously in elevation, but distance-wise, it reached way up into the canyons up there. So the next slide I'm going to show is actually just this little box right here. So as the lake has dropped, what we're seeing is the movement of this sediment delta downstream. And as it moves downstream, we go from lake to moving water, river. And so over this is a 2-year time lapse that I put together. And so through this 2-year time period, the lake dropped about 60 feet. And the lake was all the way up into Narrow Canyon, which would have been over here. The Dirty Devil comes in just off the screen. And so the river advanced 17 miles in these 2 years, which is just kind of crazy to think. When 2 years ago, we were cruising along and we were hitting lake before we got to the takeout at the end of the Cataract Canyon trip. And now there's 13 miles of river downstream of the Dirty Devil. And so we get to travel that because we can't take out at North Wash because it's ridiculous. So we move downstream, we motor all the way down to Bullfrog, and we get to see this stretch. And it's just crazy how much sediment is to be on moving water down in Glen Canyon, which is pretty powerful. This picture was taken this spring. They love being up there. We see them all the time. These pelicans. It's popular spots. They like the spot where the river meets the lake. And this buoy here is about to be stranded in the sediment. It's kind of an interesting scene. So the next one I'm going to show is in this red box here, moving down to the San Juan River. And so there's some stuff, Clay Hills Takeout, down to this is called the Great Bend. And so the next time lapse is showing that area. And so same thing going on. The lake's receding, and you've got river flowing out and around the Great Bend, and it ends up all the way down into the head of Paiute Bay now. So this massive open bay is going to be just exposed sediment pretty soon. And what's really neat about this, I was thinking, well, we need some good news. Where's the sticky note of good news? So I'm trying to bring something like we got flowing water, we got river, we've got a beautiful canyon. I mean, being on this lower stretch of the San Juan below Clay Hills, you get into these stretches where it's just Navajo sandstone, Wingate sandstone, that Glen Canyon group, river flowing through it, native vegetation popping up everywhere, and just beautiful canyon scene. So there's some really cool stuff happening as a byproduct of the reservoir being low. So it's not all doom and gloom, but I get it. There's a lot of stuff stacked up right now. Like I said, there's a lot of really great native vegetation popping up. This is a field of seep willow. This is down by Neville Spring, and this is like right here on the Great Bend. Beautiful scene, just fields of seep willow, fields of coyote willow popping up, all these native plants. And there's some spots where there's cottonwood trees that are over 50 foot tall, becoming mature cottonwood trees. So really, really cool to see this whole stretch. And this is reservoir, there's the confluence of the Colorado. And this is just matched up with one of the 1921 planet profile maps. So kind of interesting to look at it as a river canyon with the reservoir in it. And what's really neat about this spot is when you're traveling through this area, Navajo Mountain is just south of it. You're right off the flanks of Navajo Mountain. Really, really cool area to travel through. So the next subject I wanted to talk about is this little interesting phenomenon going up there at the North Wash takeout area where the river is out of its channel. And so a couple matched photos. This is pre-dam, or right as the dam's being completed. The river is now flowing over this cobbly hill area, and you can see that in this picture, where the river's out of its place and flowing over that cobble. And it's kind of interesting to think, like, well, when did that happen? And so in the early 2000s, as the reservoir dropped out a ton, this was 2002, Gene Stevenson got this photo, and you can tell the river used to go here, and as the reservoir dropped out, it just happened to jog to the right a little bit here across that sediment delta, and it ended up out of its channel. And this is the first spot in that stretch where the river's out of its channel. And it just so happens to be, they put in North Wash takeout right here because the Height Marina was over here. Still is, just nobody uses, there's nobody there anymore. They completely abandoned the Height Marina. So here's an overlay. There's the original channel. There's the North Wash takeout right here, which is right in this area here. So kind of an interesting phenomenon. The river stayed over in that right channel and it's continued to flow. There's the Dirty Devil coming in. We call this the Dirty Devil head wall, because that's kind of right where the river leaves its original channel. And it flows over all these cobbles. And for whatever reason, these cobbles could have been deposited in different ways. It could be river terracing, or it could be a paleo channel. But there's a lot of just loose cobble in this area. In the last 20 years, as there's been river and reservoir going back and forth in the area, we've seen these cobbles exposed many times. And at higher flows, they actually get excavated out of there. And what's happened is the river has continued to carve down in this area, and it's removed a lot of these cobbles. And we've kind of asked ourselves, when, at what point is the river going to carve down enough that it hits something harder than just old river cobble? So we teamed up with some smart folks over at Gickmer, and the whole crew. Shout out to that Paul Grams, Tuso, Kaplinski, and Shannon, and Badger. They've been up to North Wash a bunch of times and played the boat game up there, getting boats in and out of North Wash is like building pyramids. So anyway, they've run all these different surveys there. And what this shows is this is pre-dam sediments, and this would be all that mud and sediment from the reservoir. And so the river is carving through, and where it's out of its channel, this area, that's that peak right there. So it shows how it's carving, and over all these years, 2020 on, the rivers continue to carve down through that pre-dam sediment and the post-dam sediments. And we're, like I said, asking ourselves, when are we going to hit something hard? So this slide just kind of shows how much can happen in a short period of time. The surface of the river, because there's a gauge in that area that measures just river surface. Similar flows, actually this is 6,000 CFS, this is 4,000 CFS, right below the Height Bridge. The river has carved down, this was after the high water of 23. It's just carving down through all that sediment at a fast rate. And so 3 years, 28 feet lower, which is mind-boggling. And what we get, what the result of that process is North Wash has become North Wall. And so we had a ramp that, originally I remember parking here with boats and letting guests off, and then it turned into over here, and then it was further down over here, and then they put a ramp in over here, and then that just calved in, and then we started using this one. And so it's just this been process of leapfrogging downhill, this super steep ramp, until all this rock started to show. And then it was like, well, we've got a steep rock wall, but at least we know that's not going to slump off. It's something solid to work with. And so, yeah, this is one of the Gickwork boats. Boats we were taking out, and I think I put my phone on there to measure the angle, and it was somewhere around 56 degrees on the frame of the boat. I mean, super steep, totally safe, you know, super safe. So just another view kind of showing this pre-dam sediments and the saddle and the high points. So this high point here, I call it kind of a saddle between the Dirty Devil head wall and the hillside over here. The river is flowing right through this zone. There's North Wash Takeout in the same spots. These boxes are the same spot. And this high point, that's the spot where we're all thinking we're going to see something start popping out. And sure enough, ta-da, it all happens at once, right? This winter, I went down there to check it out because I was bored skiing stuff. And come to find out, there was like these little waves starting to come out just above North Wash Boat Ramp. And so in this picture, North Wash Boat Ramp is just downstream. And so we were doing a little geologizing. Oh, this is some nice cobbly conglomerate rock here. And then we parked our research vessel out in the river and got out of the boat, and ends up, this is that same cobbly cemented cobbles. And so not really that loose cobble that we were seeing get eroded away. This is a bit harder. And so we're kind of wondering, well, I wonder what the river's going to do with this. Kaplinski sent us this photo. So this was done in 24 when the river was much higher. I don't know, it was probably 30,000, so they could get the boat out over all these shallow areas. And they picked up some of this bed surface starting to show in these places. So this point right here is right where the boat was parked. And then that point jutting out right there, that's that cobble right there. So right in the place where that saddle was, that high point, we're starting to see harder rocks start to show themselves. And so we're wondering, is the river going to erode this away, or is this going to make some waves? Is it going to turn into some sort of Pierce Ferry situation? We don't know. And so we've mapped out a lot of the sediments that are deposited in there. This is the original river profile. This would have been Dark Canyon and Rockfall Canyon, so steep spots where there's big rapids. Cataract up here, there's gypsum. And so all that sediment plug in there, and the river's carving down through it. And the river's going to continue to carve until it hits something. And so, boom, we're getting this conglomerate rock coming out right down there at North Wash. And we're wondering, okay, if it can't erode through this, and we get like a waterfall or a rapid in that area, how is that going to affect the situation upstream? And so here's some prior examples of stuff, that has happened. Pierce Ferry, Paiute Farms waterfall, Fat Falls. These are both on the San Juan River. And what's wild is there's so much sediment on the San Juan River. This is back in the 1900s here. Paiute Falls is completely silted in now because of all the silt on the San Juan River and the formation of fat falls downstream. You get that process of aggregation. You get all the sand dropping out when you get this low head dam effect. The water slows upstream of these waterfalls, the sediment drops out, and you get all this buildup of sediment. And so we've seen this waterfall completely silt in. So this is what it looks like today. It's about a 1 foot drop. We get out and scout it anyway. So we ask ourselves, is the same thing going to happen in Cataract Canyons? Could we have a situation where a nick point forms, the river can't carve down anymore, and then next thing you know, we've got Sandbar Alley, just like Lower Grand Canyon or Lower San Juan, starting to form in Cataract Canyon. And we feel like it would be a bit of a travesty if that happened there too, because the whole point of Returning Rapids Project is watching the river carve down and expose all this amazing resources that we've seen come back. Rapids, native vegetation, the eddies and the ecosystems that all the fish love to live in. And, for those of you that have floated down through those stretches where the sandbars are just dominating the river, it's not quite right. It's not how it used to be. It's not recovered how it used to be. It's kind of in limbo. And so we ask ourselves, what's going to happen. This is an example of Slickhorn Rapid. And Slickhorn Rapid got completely buried by sediment, just like that Paiute Farms waterfall. 1921, big rapid down there on the San Juan River, Slickhorn Rapid. 1961, rapid still there. Then the dam formed, and the lake filled. And then eventually, as it carved down, it hit those nick points, and you got that sandbar alley that formed downstream of Slickhorn, and the rapid eventually went away because of all that sediment buildup. So we wondered, well, geez, there's North Wash, here's the old historic channel, here's the new channel. Could the river be put back? Does it make sense to put the river back in its channel? We know exactly what will happen if it hits a nick point here and it stops carving. We're going to get all that sedimentation in Lower Cataract Canyon. And so, just a quick thing to point out, this is about 3/4 of a mile right here. And sure, it's super thick sediment, but about 20 to 30% of it, if it was removed, the river would do the rest of the carving. So we were like, okay, has this happened anywhere else? Here's Wahweap Marina. They dredged out, the canyon dredged out a shortcut here so that you could go up lake through sandstone over a half a mile. And this happened a couple times to get it to a minimum usable elevation of 3580. Still not usable. So we asked, will we ever see Dark Canyon again? And that kind of depends on whether the river ends up getting back in its channel and the river can continue to carve down. Could we see Gypsum Rapid go away now that it's come back and go back to just a little riffle where there's no rapid anymore? And so for the time being, we're going to continue to run stuff that's come back and have fun out there. Thank you very much.
Peter, thank you so much. So some of you might be a little curious about how the schedule has altered. So I just want to share with you. We're only at about a 20-minute difference, and we have had the graciousness. We had an opening tomorrow, which we'll let you know about tomorrow. But GCMRC will be going tomorrow, and then we'll continue on with the program. At this time, I'm going to invite Dr. Melissa, who is a professor of environmental science, to intro our short film. Let's give it up.
Emily asked me to introduce this video that I did not make because I use it in my classes every semester when my students and I are talking about the way that we value the environment. In this case, in particular, the Colorado River. There's ethical considerations, ecological considerations, and economic considerations. So I'm sure most of us know, or at least have heard of Pete McBride. This is one of his films that he made way before he and Kevin did the through hike. He made it for American Rivers, a nonprofit that I'm sure we are also all familiar with. Every year, American Rivers identifies the 10 most endangered rivers in America. So back in 2014, Colorado River was at the top of the list. It has since again been named one of the most endangered rivers in America.
Have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states. 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power,
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am
I am tired,
tapped,
and tired of the hundreds of major rivers in the world. I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name is Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
So that film kicks off our segment, the Colorado, Your Role Appropriately. And thus Zeke is going to talk to us about the Adopt Each program.
Yeah. Is this on? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
For, excuse me, for 14 springs, I was working for Fish and Wildlife in the Upper Basin. And we would do, excuse me, we would do intern about what we were up to with the commercial companies up there. And to verify dam joke number 1, I bet you that we convinced 50% of the passengers up there that we were putting the electricity into the water